run mini stock 3. Number 3 car. I blew out a clutch during last practice. And Mike Gordon went home, got me a clutch.
And welcome to Langley Raceway fans for the 4th stop for 1994 for the NASCAR Winston Racing Series Late Model Stock Car Division. It's been a wild season so far here in racing action. Eddie Johnson of the Ashland Ford, number 57, has taken 2 of the checkered flags in the 3 races earlier this year. Johnson backs up his 2 victories with a solid qualifying performance earlier this afternoon at a time of 16.705 seconds. Good enough to put him on the pole for tonight's NASCAR Winston 100. The outside of that first row going in car number 18. This gentleman had a solid race last week for 3rd, the Blackhawk Performance Parts 18 car of Terry Harris. Second row tonight will be the number 94 machine of Buddy Malish and the 22 of Ashton Lewis Jr. That driver also having another good solid qualifying effort. In the 3rd row, it's the 16 of Chip Hudson and the number 26 machine of Danny Edwards Jr. We understand Danny has put a small carburetor on that car to run in tonight's late model stock car feature event. So we'll do a check on him throughout the race and see how he's making out. Danny was on the pole for the previous race here at the Raceway. Back in the 4th row, the opening night feature winner, Greg Edwards in car number 27, along with the 04 machine of Bugs Harefield. Row number 10, or make it 5, the 9th and 10th positions go to the number 1 machine of Buddy Dozier, with the 47 of Phil Warren making out the top 10. Row number 6 tonight, car number 7 of Barry Strathman, while the number 11 of Jimmy Humblett makes up the top 6 rows. Humblett, the former limited stock campaigner, going off in row 7, the number 2 machine of Craig Estep, along with the number 9 car of Mike Connor. In the 8th row tonight, the number 10 of Paul DeBolt and the number 6 car of John Livingston. Row number 9 here in the Winston 100 goes to the father and son tandem, the 06 and 05 of Buck and Doug Godsey, respectively, back there in row number 9. 68 of Kevin Cunningham and the 88 of Mitch Sarvis will make up row number 10. Making up row number 11 tonight, the 44 of Mike Gwaltney and the 07 of Randy Akers. And rounding out the order tonight, the 23 of Fred Siebert, along with the 31 car of Chuck Britt. Again, Eddie Johnson has picked up the first, or I should say the latest 2 checkered flags here in 1994 in Winston Racing Series late model stock car action. He has always been one tough nut to crack, a 15-time feature winner 1 season ago, and now looking to see if he can come close to those 15 victories so far this year. In the first 3 weeks, he's won 2 out of 3, so that makes his chances of winning 15 again this year very good if he can keep that streak alive. Greg Edwards, the opening night feature winner in car number 27, the only other driver to crack into victory lane. Again, Greg nestled back there in the number 7 spot. 100 laps again will be the distance here in the Winston 100, the final tune-up before the Champion Sparkplug Road to Charlotte 200, which will come up 1 week from tonight here at the Langley Raceway, the longest race so far this year for the late model stock car regulars at Langley Raceway. Lights off the safety car. Indication is one more time by as we get set to put 100 laps on the board tonight. Caution flags or laps will not count, so when the caution does come out, they will stay at the lap that they were on when the yellow hit. So much like it was easier a week ago when we had 150 laps on the board, and sometimes it's nice to see those yellow flag laps count, but tonight we will go back to the normal procedure with Eddie Johnson again and Terry Harris on the front row.
Shot number 3, blew his clutch out. Mike Gordon went all the way home by clutch for him, and a lot of the mini stock crew members and teams helped him get it back on there. And maybe a special thank you to them and this guy right here, making them happen.
Field coming off turn number 3 and 4. The Langley Raceway Pontiac safety car is off at the pit area. Eddie Johnson and Terry Harris from the front row tonight. And let's see if Johnson can make it a 3rd consecutive victory, or whether Terry Harris can crack into victory lane. Meanwhile, trouble off turn number 2 right from the get-go. 3 cars, looks like now 4 involved in the second turn, and it will be a complete restart. One of those machines is a number 6 car of John Livingston. He was involved. The 23 car of Fred Siebert was also tied up over there. The number 31 car of Chuck Britt, and the 05 and 06, apparently, of Buck and Doug Godsey were all cars involved. As Buck Godsey down on pit road. No laps in the books here in tonight's start of the Winston 100 for late model stock cars. Back at Langley Raceway, no laps in the books, but everything over in turn number 2 quickly cleared up. All drivers involved kept on under their own power. Evidently no fluid was dumped by any car, so there was no speedy dry or anything that needed to be applied. Drivers quickly know that they have to line up on the complete restart, so they know where that is. So quickly we get right back down to green flag racing. Eddie Johnson in the 57 bolts out to the lead with the 18 of Terry Harris nestling into second as the field works back to the stripe to complete lap number 1. 94 of Buddy Malish works into third. After that, it's a side-by-side battle for the number 4 spot. And right now, Chip Hudson, who is really due for a good run tonight, has worked him in the 4th. It's Ashton Lewis in the 22 in 5th. Danny Edwards in the 26 trying for 6th. Brother Greg Edwards on the low side as they battle back to the stripe. Bugs Harefield, Phil Warren, and Buddy Dozier all there likewise. 2 laps in the books. First car off pit road, or on pit road, is the 06 of Buck Gotze. He came down to the pits under the caution moments ago, and now the problems continue for the Gotze and Son team based out of Richmond, Virginia. Doug Gotze was also involved in the accident moments ago, but has continued on. With Eddie Johnson showing the way here. Trouble on one car high in turn number 2. It's the 04 of Bugs Harefield. And for the moment, he held up the 47 of Phil Warren enough that Warren dropped back a few notches. But Harefield in the 04 off the pace in turn number 3 and 4. He'll head to the pits here on lap number 4. Harefield starting back in the 8th position in tonight's feature event has had some good solid runs in the first 3 weeks of racing here at Langley, and unfortunately will not be a part in figuring who is going to be the winner tonight in the Winston 100. Eddie Johnson the leader, Terry Harris a very tight second, Buddy Malish remains in 3rd, Chip Hudson holds on to 4th, and the 22 of Ashton Lewis Jr. has reassumed the number 5 spot. Buck Gotze off pit road to the 06 as he now goes another lap down as he comes off a pit road just as the leaders swing by. Danny Edwards Jr. in the 26 holding on to the number 6 spot. Brother Greg Edwards back there in 7th. Buddy Dozier in car number 1 for the moment holds on to the 8th spot. 7 of Barry Strathman currently in 9th of the number 2 machine of Craig Estep. Those 2 cars definitely are long overdue for a good run, as is the 16 of Chip Hudson. They have really been hit hard by some tough breaks earlier this season. 2 cars very close to going a lap down. That's Fred Siebert in the 23. Also the 07 of Randy Akers. The lead pack will work down there on the back straightaway. They'll go by the Siebert car this time. Akers will be the next in line. The 31 of Chuck Britt will be the next car that they'll go after, and he is a full straightaway from being lapped here on the 9th circuit of competition. Terry Harris, very impressive a week ago with a 3rd place performance. He didn't inherit it, he earned it. And the driver of car number 18 is right there with Eddie Johnson of the Ashland Ford entry early here in tonight's Winston 100. 10 go on the board, 90 circuits to go. Buddy Malish remains in 3rd with Chip Hudson long overdue for where he's at right now in 4th. Ashton Lewis, much like Terry Harris, a very consistent runner in 5th. Danny Edwards Jr. holding on to the number 6 spot. Those 6 cars are pretty much hooking up with each other. Greg Edwards back there in 7th. The number 1 machine of Buddy Dozier holds on to the 8th spot. Barry Strathman 9th. And Craig Estep holds on to 10th position as 47 of Phil Warren is knocking on the door to get back in the top 10. Warren gets a 10th spot moments ago. He works the outside of Craig Estep, also the lap car of Fred Siebert. And he is now faced with the cars of Buck Gotze and Randy Akers before he can get up to the Barry Strathman machine. Johnson working off in turn number 1 and 2, and those top 3 are very tight, nose to tail off the 2nd turn. Harris of the 18 remains in 2nd, Malish in 3rd. Chip Hudson of the 16, miserable 3 weeks to start this season off, remains in 4th. Field strung out around the speedway as Eddie Johnson begins to lap some back markers in the field. The 31 of Chuck Britt will be the car he'll catch next. Machine down on pit road as Eddie Johnson works off turn number 2. No matter whether he's out of the open or in lap traffic, Terry Harris is right there at the Blackhawk Performance Parts number 18. Malish in the 94 remains in 3rd. Challenge for the lead here on lap number 16. Terry Harris says, I did well last week. Let's see whether I can get it all the way to the front. Finishing 3rd a week ago, going for the crown jewel. He wants the number 1 spot. He'll get it down the back straightaway. Buddy Malish right there looking to take 2nd before Eddie Johnson can get back down. Malish now dead even with Johnson just about as they work back to the stripe here on lap number 17. Terry Harris, your new leader in car number 18. Malish in the second, Johnson third, Chip Hudson fourth, Ashton Lewis fifth, and Danny Edwards in the number 6 spot. Seventh is now Buddy Dozier as he has gotten around Greg Edwards, who holds on to 8th. Barry Strathman remains your 9th place car with the 47 of Phil Warren in 10th. Now, Warren was up a little bit higher than that tonight. He qualified in 10th position, but had moved up a couple of notches in the order, but got stuck behind the 04 of Bugs Harefield when Harefield slowed, and right now Bugs appears to be the only casualty of tonight's events. A couple of other cars have been down pit road, including the 06 of Buck Gotze and the number 51 car that was a late arrival to the Speedway. Other than that, everybody else has pretty much been okay so far in the early stages. 20 laps are in the record books here in tonight's Winston Racing Series, Winston 100. Terry Harris is a leader right now comfortably as he gets this set to hit back markers in the field. Car is really hooked up as he gets around a couple of slower cars here on the front straightaway. As soon as we get to lap number 25, we'll get an update and give you the drivers that are on the lead lap here in tonight's late model stock car event. The 18 of Harris is showing the way, working back to the stripe, getting around the 07 of Randy Akers, and looks like he'll clear the 88 of Mitch Sarvis for the first time tonight. Malish in the 94 remains in second. Eddie Johnson in third. Chip Hudson within a couple of car lengths there in fourth. Ashton Lewis Jr. comfortably in fifth. Danny Edwards Jr. holding on to the number 6 spot. Next two cars in line would be the 44 of Mike Gwaltney and the 23 of Fred Siebert. Gwaltney is on the lead lap for the moment as they work off turn number 2. Terry Harris trying to mow him down and put another live driver in arrears early here in tonight's Winston 100. We're going to step aside for a few moments and return for more coverage of the Winston 100. Terry Harris in car number 18, our leader, here at Langley Raceway.
Kind of looks familiar, but I don't have them on my roster yet. Somewhere in there is a hot dog. Can you find it? I feel it.
At Langley Raceway, 30 laps about to go up on the board. So far, Terry Harris has shown the way in car number 18 once he assumed the lead from Eddie Johnson. And with Buddy Malish getting into second, Harris has been able to pull away. He has worked back markers in the field right now, working around the number 31 machine of Chuck Britt. Let's take you farther back in the field here in tonight's Winston 100 here at the 30-lap mark. It's once again the 18 of Terry Harris as your leader. 94 of Buddy Malish in second. The 57 of Eddie Johnson continues to be out there in third. 16 of Chip Hudson having a good run. Once again, we said long overdue. He is currently in the number 4 spot. 22 of Ashton Lewis Jr. remains in 5th. The number 1 of Buddy Dozier is currently in 6th position. 7th is the 26 of Danny Edwards Jr. The 8th spot goes to the number 27 of Greg Edwards, and 9th is the 47 of Phil Warren, who continues to try to work back up front. 10th on the grid is the number 7 car of Barry Strathman. 11th would be the number 2 machine of Craig Eastep as Eastep works off turn number 4. 12th on the field is the 06 machine of Buck Gotze, the number 10 of Paul DeBolt, the number 6 of John Livingston, the number 9 of Mike Connor. All cars just in front of the leader, Terry Harris, as well as the 05 of Doug Gotze and the 11 of Jimmy Humblett. These cars are very close to going at least 1 or more laps down in tonight's Winston 100. 33 on the board, 2 different leaders. Last week we had 3 as the pole sitter Danny Edwards Jr. led a About the first 30 circuits of the event before car number 84, Mike Buffkin, took the lead and led up to lap number 119 when Eddie Johnson put the afterburners on and put the Ashland Ford in the top spot for the remaining 31 laps of action and picked up his second consecutive win. Right now, Harris with a comfortable lead works off turn number 2 and down the back straightaway around the 07 of Randy Akers, the 68 of Kevin Cunningham, about to become the next victim to be lapped. One car getting the Passover flag as Terry Harris setting a blistering pace here tonight. Malice, Johnson, and Chip Hudson remain a very tight second, third, and fourth. Ashton Lewis about a half turn back in fifth, but comfortably in the spot. The number 1 of Buddy Dozier seems to be running rather comfortably. He's holding on to the number 6 spot. 7th is now Greg Edwards. He has picked up some momentum. 8th is Danny Edwards, and Phil Warren is running in 9th position. Again, the 7 of Barry Strathman holds on to 10th. Harris maneuvers around the 11 car of Jimmy Humblett and lap ago, getting around the 68 of Kevin Cunningham for the first time. Working off turn number 4, 38 laps will go in the books. He'll clear the 05 of Doug Godsey. Malish in the 94 has had some great qualifying efforts so far all season long and really has always been right up in the thick of the battle. Some of these drivers that we are mentioning, as we said, Terry Harris, Ashton Lewis, and Buddy Malish have always seemed to be up there, but so far this year, and it's awful early, so hopefully they are long overdue for victories. We have already seen Eddie Johnson and Greg Edwards, but the season is very young, and right now Terry Harris is proving it. As he says, there's a long way to go, but it may be my night to score a feature win. 40 laps go on the board. He is 10 laps shy of the halfway point here in tonight's Winston 100. Again, the final tune-up before the champion spark plug. Road to Charlotte 200 next week here at the Langley Raceway. Caution hits the speedway for trouble apparently up in turn number 3 and 4. 40 laps are in the record books, and we'll take a break here with the Winston 100 coverage at Langley Raceway. Back at Langley Raceway, 39 laps on the board. The caution coming out for the number 31 car of Chuck Britt, who started back in the 24th position. And he has a spin over in turn number 3 and 4. And the accident cleared up rather quickly here on the 39th circuit as we get set to go back to green flag action. Mike Waltney in car number 44 also down pit road. He, along with the 04 of Bugs Harefield, appear to be the only 2 casualties of tonight's late model stock car event. Well, we'll check that. Harefield to make it Waltney in the 44. Absent from last week's racing action here at the Speedway, flies off the jacket right back out into the racing wars. So for the most part, just about everybody, with the exception of 1 car, back in tonight's Winston 100. 40 go on the board, 10 laps shy of the halfway point. Terry Harris will work with a clear track for the first time tonight. 2 machine of Craig Eastab getting a stop-and-go penalty apparently here on the front straightaway. The spectator sports card entry quickly back out on the speedway, and will go at least 1 lap down. Tough break for that driver who was in the top 10 tonight. Harris of the 18 responding to the challenge of cars behind him on the restart. As a 31 of Chuck Britt pulls it off pit road, the lead pack comes right around him. Down the front straightaway, Buddy Malish remains in second. Eddie Johnson holding on to third, the number 4 spot. Going to Chip Hudson, Ashton Lewis Jr. still a consistent 5th. 6th on the grid, the number 1 of Buddy Dozier. 7th is Greg Edwards. 8th, Danny Edwards Jr. 9th is Phil Warren. And the top 10 held out by the number 7 of Barry Strathman. One car that made it to the Speedway late, it was the 25th starter in tonight's action, the number 51 of Rusty Wood. Rusty's had a couple visits down on pit road, but remains back out there in action. And he is making his first visit to Langley Raceway here in 1994. No stiff challenges as you look up throughout the entire top 10 here in tonight's late model stock car event. 5 laps shy of the halfway point. Terry Harris with a comfortable margin. Eddie Johnson pulling a little bit closer to the Buddy Malish car. Chip Hudson in the 16 got to be wondering what's wrong with this picture, having him up on the top 5. He has just been decimated with so many problems early this year, and he was one of the drivers that really kicked a lot of tail here last season in late model stock car action. So he is in a prime position for a feature victory here tonight, as Terry Harris is just a few car lengths in front of him. Although Hudson's back in 4th, he has got Terry Harris well within his sights. Ashton Lewis in the 22 remains in 5th position. Challenge for the runner-up honors. Eddie Johnson may be ready to go back into 2nd, and keep an eye on Terry Harris. He works the inside of Buddy Malish in turn number 1 and 2. Malish gives him room on the low side as the 57 works down the backstretch, and the Ashland Ford machine is back in the number 2 spot. Fast timer earlier tonight at 16.705. He's back in 2nd, and we'll see what he can do with Terry Harris. 48 on the board, and when halfway comes up, Harris will be in the midst of lap traffic. The 44 of Mike Gwaltney will be the first car he hits, so let's see if Johnson can close the interval once the Harris car gets back into the back markers in the field. Malish remains 3rd with Chip Hudson tightly on his rear bumper back there in 4th position. Ashton Lewis remains in 5th. Buddy Dozier feeling pressure back there in 6th position from Greg Edwards, and a challenge back there for 8th. Danny Edwards and Phil Warren Jr., the pair of yellow machines, pitting side by side, now racing side by side off turn number 4, and Warren will get the advantage down the front straightaway. That again for 8th position. Danny Edwards Jr. back to 9th. The number 7 of Barry Stradlin would make up the top 10. Halfway the indication that time by Terry Harris, quickly working off turn number 4, putting 51 on the board. He has led a good portion of the first half of tonight's event. Can he hold on and hold off the efforts of Eddie Johnson? Working some heavy lap traffic as they work off into turn number 1 and 2 again. Terry Harris of the 18 now out in the clear for the moment. Couple of lap cars coming up in turn number 3 and 4. Interval between 1st and 2nd looks like it has stayed so far the same. Lap number 53 on the board, but Eddie Johnson a long way to go to catch Terry Harris. Plenty of time for the veteran of Ashland, Virginia, finishing 4th in the Mid-Atlantic Series points just 1 year ago. Malish in the 94, after losing 2nd to Johnson, has lost a little bit out on the speedway, but Chip Hudson in car number 16, who was challenging for that 3rd spot just a little bit moments ago, has also fallen back. Ashton Lewis back in the 5th position has also lost sight of the top 4 as he works heavy lap traffic with Buddy Dozier, Greg Edwards, and Phil Warren now beginning a very tight 4-car pack. 55 on the board here at Langley Raceway. Race number 4 for 1994, the Winston 100. As we mentioned, in just a week, these drivers will be involved in twice that amount of laps. The Road to Charlotte Champion Sparkplug 200 coming up here at the Speedway. Harris right behind the 06 of Buck Gotze with the 88 of Mitch Sarvis just in front. And Phil Warren in the 47, he seems to be the driver we, for at some point in the program, always seem to talk about. Seems to be the one driver that always passes quite a few cars out on the speedway, but just hasn't found his way to victory lane so far this year. But once again, very early in the season for the RC caller number 47 and the rest of the field. Still very tight with Ashton Lewis, Buddy Dozier, Greg Edwards, and Phil Warren. That's the battle right now back for the number 7 spot. Edwards has it for the moment. Phil Warren continues to work him on the outside. Meanwhile, Terry Harris continuing to hold that interval over Eddie Johnson. He is clear lap traffic. He'll enjoy a little bit of smooth sailing out of the open for a little while. Phil Warren still can't get around Greg Edwards for the 7th spot. Harris still your leader. Lewis beginning to feel more pressure back there in 5th from Buddy Dozier. Dozier now dives to the inside, and it could be a change of positions for the number 5 spot. The Greg Edwards, Phil Warren duel just behind those two drivers has cooled off, and now Buddy Dozier makes the clean pass on Ashton Lewis. Greg Edwards is going to keep him to the high side, see if he can work into the number 6 spot, and Phil Warren is there likewise. Off into turn number 1 and 2. Buddy Dozier cracks the top 5 of the JB Gallery of Girls number 1 car for the first time tonight. Greg Edwards in the Danny's Glass number 27, now into 6th. The RC Cola number 47 of Phil Warren will go to 7th, and the Hampton Chevrolet number 22 of Ashton Lewis Jr. goes all the way back to 8th. Danny Edwards in the 26 right there at 9th, and Barry Stradlin in car number 7 also gaining ground. He's running 10th on the field. 61 circuits on the board. Once again, Terry Harris holding a margin over Eddie Johnson that may have shrunk just a tad, but we'll step aside here in tonight's Winston 100 here on lap number 62 and return with more action in a moment from Langley Raceway.
It's in there. No, you're going to
at Langley Raceway. Lap number 66 just going up on the board. Once again, things are tightening up in the number 1 spot. Terry Harris of the 18 still the leader, but Eddie Johnson is closing that interval down. Meanwhile, Chip Hudson in the 16 has made another move that could set him up for a good finish at the end tonight. The number 16 has gotten around Buddy Malish and is in the third, as the car number 1 of Buddy Dozier remains in 5th position. Greg Edwards still in 6th. It's Phil Warren holding on to the number 7 spot. Danny Edwards Jr. continues to run 8th on the field, and Barry Strathman in car number 7 holds on to 9th. We may have missed a car in there, as we did have 10 machines, and Strathman listed as 10th, so there is one in there missing right now. Harris is a leader again, Johnson second. They have stretched a good advantage out over Chip Hudson right now. 22 of Ashton Lewis may have been the car that we did miss in between Phil Warren and Danny Edwards, as Lewis was running 5th and then lost 3 spots about 10 laps ago. And now he is just right in behind the Warren machine, with Danny Edwards just behind him, along with the 7 of Barry Strathman, who continues to reel in those drivers. Strathman back there in the 10th spot. Started in 11th position and has only gained 1 spot, but is right there in the area of possibly being able to make a couple of more passes if the time need be. 18 of Terry Harris still feeling Eddie Johnson well within striking distance. 70 circuits go up on the board. Only 2 cautions for tonight's event. And for the most part, it's been all Terry Harris after taking the lead on lap number 15. But Johnson continues to just hang right in there, well within striking distance. On lap number 72, we'll take you farther back in the field. Harris a leader, Johnson running to the number 2 spot. Third on the grid again, the 16 of Chip Hudson. 4th, the 94 of Buddy Malish. 5th goes to the number 1 machine of Buddy Dozier. Holding on to 6th position is the 27 of Greg Edwards. 7th is the 47 of Phil Warren. 8th right now, the 22 of Ashton Lewis Jr. In 9th position, the 26 of Danny Edwards Jr. And 10th is car number 7 of Barry Strathman. Now we look at the cars after 10th place that are still in the race, but maybe at least 1 lap down. And they include the 88 of Mitch Sarvis, car number 6 of John Livingston, also the 23 machine of Fred Siebert, the 07 of Randy Akers, the number 11 of Jimmy Humblett, the 68 car of Kevin Cunningham, and the 05 of Doug Gotze. Most of those cars have already fallen 1 lap behind. Thank you. Really only 10 cars on the lead lap. There may be a couple of those machines that Terry Harris has not worked on, but right now Harris is being worked on by Eddie Johnson in turn number 3 and 4. 75 laps, 3/4 of the way in, 76 on the board this time by, and now Eddie Johnson begins to make his move. Harris working lap traffic, getting around Doug Gotze. Kevin Cunningham will be the next car he faces, as Johnson in the 57 now begins to draw bead in turn number 3 and 4. Off of that 4th turn, they'll work the Kevin Cunningham machine. Harris swings it out way wide, and they'll work Cunningham in the 1-2 turn. Cunningham showing a little bit of strength over in the 2nd turn. Harris will now clear him, or try to, down the back straightaway with Eddie Johnson right there. The 16 of Chip Hudson also trying to gain ground and see if he can get right in that battle with the front 2 cars. 78 on the record books, 22 still to go here in the Winston 100. Buddy Malish in the 94 still holding on to the number 4 spot. Far cry back to the number 1 of Buddy Dozier, almost a full straightaway, but then a good battle developing back there as Greg Edwards has gotten around the Ashton Lewis car. And also, it appears as though Barry Strathman has moved up 1 notch in the order. Strathman has now gotten around Danny Edwards Jr. and is running in the 9th position. 1 car off the pace off turn number 2. That's the 11 of Jimmy Humblett, the former limited stock campaigner, making his 2nd appearance here of the season. He will drift down the back straightaway as the 44 of Mike Gwaltney also gets some service, but now Gwaltney appears to be heading down behind pit wall. Challenge for the lead, midpoint down the back straightaway. Eddie Johnson had a bead, looked like he was set to make a run, but the 11 of Jimmy Humblett almost to a dead stop in turn number 3 and 4, forced Johnson back behind the 18 car. 81 laps on the board, 19 to go for Terry Harris, and it's going to be 19 of the most grueling laps he will ever have served up if he can stay in front of Eddie Johnson. Chip Hudson with a clean shot at the front 2. He holds on to 3rd as Humblett now makes the stop down pit road. Challenge on the inside for the lead. Eddie Johnson and Terry Harris go at it in turn number 1 and 2. Off the the second turn down the backstretch. Harris is not going to give it up easily. He'll fight hard to the outside. A lap car will come upon him. It's a 23 of Fred Siebert. Will he be a deciding factor as he works turn number 1 and 2, as Harris will try to pin Eddie Johnson in. Can he do it? Down the back straightaway. No, Johnson just able to squeeze by the Siebert car, and he's your new leader. The no-give-up attitude by Terry Harris continues. He works the inside of Eddie Johnson hard at turn number 1 and 2, and now falls back into second. Hudson in the 16 remains in third, but a great effort tonight by Terry Harris in car number 18. 85 on the board and 15 to go, and anything can happen. Harris, I wouldn't count him out yet, with the 57 of Eddie Johnson as the leader. But the Ashland Ford going for his third consecutive victory here at Langley Raceway in 1994. We'll step aside in tonight's Winston 100 action and return with the final 10 circuits here in tonight's late model stock car series. Langley Raceway, 90 will go up on the board as the leaders come off turn number 4. Terry Harris has lost the lead to Eddie Johnson, and right now will be challenged with the next couple of laps by Chip Hudson in car number 16. Hudson has finally found some good fortune tonight. He works to the inside of Harris down the back straightaway. May have a run on him going into turn number 3 and 4. Now falls back behind in the third and fourth turn. 91 circuits on the board. Trouble off turn number 2. Ashton Lewis spins out of shape. Barry Strathman, Danny Edwards Jr., Fred Siebert, all involved over there, but minor damage hardly any done to any of the drivers, and that'll bring out a caution, only the third in tonight's Winston 100. Now back at Langley Raceway, a harmless series of spins over in turn number 2 involved a few of the drivers that were up in the top 10, one of those being the Hampton Chevrolet number 22 of Ashton Lewis Jr. He loses most of the spots that he had up there. The 7 of Barry Strathman and the 26 of Danny Edwards Jr. had to apply the brakes to avoid making contact, but nonetheless were able to hold on to the spots that they had, or at least improve by one, since Lewis was in front of him and spun out. Pace car off into the infield area. The Ashland Ford number 57 of Eddie Johnson continues to show the way. Right as the caution was coming out, Chip Hudson was set to challenge Terry Harris for the number 2 spot. We'll see in the final 10 circuits if that indeed will happen. The 94 of Buddy Malice remains in third, or make it fourth, and the yellow will quickly come back out. 23 of Fred Siebert making the visit down pit road with a right front flat tire. The 11 of Jimmy Humblett continues there on pit road likewise. Safety car will work back out onto the speedway as we'll get him straight one more time. Working on getting a few cars realigned here in the final 10 laps of tonight's late model stock car event. Fans, during the break of the action, I know there are... Back at Langley, 90 still on the board. The spin by Ashton Lewis over in turn number 3 quickly brought the caution back out as we get set to go back to green and decide who is going to be the feature winner. Will Eddie Johnson record his third consecutive race here at the Action Track of the South? Right now, the indication is yes. Terry Harris of the 18 with a fine third-place performance a week ago is trying to hold on to second, but Chip Hudson in the 16, who was also looking for a good, solid performance for the first time this year, trying to get the runner-up spot, and he was challenging heavily before that caution came out moments ago. 94 of Buddy Malice also has got some renewed vim and vigor right now. He holds on to the number 4 spot. Buddy Dozier in car number 1 back there in 5th. was lost in a mire of lap traffic, so it's going to be a hard fight for him to get back up to the front. Meanwhile, a caution will come out here on the front straightaway. The 68 of Kevin Cunningham, a spin victim as he gets to the Interstate Batteries victory lane a little bit earlier than the race indicated, as there's only 91 on the board and 9 to go, and I'm sure Kevin would like to be in victory lane tonight, but unfortunately the troubles hit the CarQuest Auto Parts 68 here on the front straightaway. Well, back at Langley, 91 laps have been recorded in the record books. Caution quickly again coming back out, this time for the 68 of Kevin Cunningham over in the front straightaway. Top four machines are nose to tail right now. The number 1 of Buddy Dozier has 2 lap cars separating him from Buddy Malish. Then one more lap machine before you get back to the 6th place car of Phil Warren. 7th currently held by Greg Edwards. The 8th spot going to Barry Strathman. 9th is Danny Edwards Jr. And 10th would appear to be the 22 of Ashton Lewis Jr. Now the 26 of Danny Edwards spins here on the front straightaway. Just a few feet down from where Kevin Cunningham was. He'll do the 360, and again the caution will come back out. Here at Langley, again a caution falling on lap number 91 as you saw the 26 of Danny Edwards Jr. spinning down the front straightaway. No contact with the inside retaining wall. Danny may have given up a couple of spots at that time. Most of the field that was behind him were lap cars, but now he will be stuck back with that lap traffic in an effort to get back up to some of the cars that are on the lead lap. And here with 9 circuits remaining, will be very difficult for him to move up any more notches in the order. Eddie Johnson quickly up to the gearbox as he works turn number 3 and 4. Chip Hudson renews his battle with Terry Harris for the runner-up honors. 92 on the board, 8 laps to go. Buddy Malish remains in 4th. Buddy Dozier holds on to 5th. Phil Warren to the number 6 spot. Right now the challenge for 2nd off turn number 2. Down the back straightaway, Hudson in the 16, Harris in the 18. 2 drivers having an excellent run tonight. Working off that 4th turn, Hudson will get the runner-up honors. Harris to 3rd, it's Malish right there in 4th. Lap car of Doug Gotze, and then the 5th place machine of Buddy Dozier. 6th is Phil Warren, 7th is Greg Edwards, 8th is Barry Strathman. 94 circuits on the board this time by for Eddie Johnson, looking to make it 3 consecutive victories in the Ashland Ford 57. Right now he's checking out as Hudson in the 16 will only have 4.5 circuits, make it 5.5 to go to catch the driver of car number 57. 5 to go this time by. Buddy Malish now gets around Terry Harris as they work off into turn number 3 and 4 here on lap number 96. And Harris in the 18 starting to fade just a little bit, but looks like he'll still be able to manage a top 5 run tonight with just 3.5 circuits to go. The lap car of Doug Gotze separates him from Buddy Dozier and Phil Warren. Time may run out for anybody else to catch the Harris machine as 3 laps on the board this time by. Eddie Johnson showing the way. Chip Hudson 2nd, Buddy Malish 3rd, Terry Harris 4th, Buddy Dozier in the number 5 spot. 2 to go indication off turn number 4. Johnson may have to deal with one more car at the very most in turn number 3 and 4 on the final circuit of action here tonight. That would be the 23 of Fred Siebert, and he may be far enough ahead that he doesn't even have to deal with him. Hudson in the 16, still 2nd, Malish in 3rd, Harris in the 18 and 4th, Buddy Dozier in car number 1 has cleared Doug Gotze, as has Phil Warren, and he may make a bid for that 4th spot. Dozier going in hard in turn number 3 and 4. It's Eddie Johnson back to the stripe, the winner of the Winston 100. Chip Hudson in the 16 comes home 2nd, the 94 of Buddy Malish in 3rd, the 18 of Terry Harris in 4th, and the number 1 of Buddy Dozier takes a top 5. Eddie Johnson makes it 3 in a row in the Ashland Ford 57. Well, victory number 3 in a row coming for Eddie Johnson of the Ashland Ford number 57 here in tonight's Winston 100 for the late model stock car series. Well, I tell you, Eddie, very early in the season, but things seem to be gelling together for you very well. We talked in the victory lane just one Saturday ago as to what it would take to move up 1 or 2 notches in the order, maybe 3, to get that Mid-Atlantic Championship. And daggone if this isn't exactly what you need to do.
Well, you know, right now things are looking real good, but we're still in a lot of uncertainty. But I got to get a lot of thanks to the people down at Hoynes and Eanes who work on their motors. They also do Terry Harris's motors. I knew he had a strong one, but they tore our car down last night, and we worked on it this morning. They opened up shop and got it fixed for us, and I can't say enough about them, Townsend race cars. This Ashland Ford Thunderbird, just, you know, we just keep on plucking right along.
Well, I tell you, last week was the same as this week. You got to the track extremely late, of course, so we understood why this afternoon, because of all the things that happened last night with getting torn down and all the work it takes to get a car put and an engine put back together. Very little practice time out on the speedway. You had a little rough time off turn number 2 on that first qualifying lap, but you made up for it in big dividends, and you went up there in a good battle with Terry Harris. I tell you, Terry's really coming on strong, and looks like he's another driver much like the Edwardses, the Hudsons, and many other top-notch late model stock car drivers that are going to give you a run for the money this year.
Well, you know, he's a tough competitor, and he also gets his motors from down there at Hoynes and Eanes. I knew he had a pretty good motor in his car, and he took off at the first, and there's just no way I thought I could run with him at that time. You know, you got to go 100 laps in this track, and it's a long ways with these tires. But he drove a good, clean race. So did the rest of the drivers. I want to thank Hoosier and all the people for coming out tonight.
Well, 150 last week, 100 this week. Next week, you got the Road to Charlotte 200. That's a long time out here on the speedway. What type of strategy do you guys look for there?
Well, you know, we've had pretty good luck in the long races also down here, but you know, hopefully we can go home and get a little bit of rest. I was a little bit tired today, but this Ashland Ford, Bojangles, You Save Auto Glass, Miss Fairnose, Brunswick Stew, R&R Construction, Thunderbird just handled great.
Well, congratulations. Looks like a very busy weekend, and you've earned yourself a Sunday of rest, and we look forward to seeing you back here at Langley Raceway for the 200-lapper next weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, Eddie Johnson in the Ashland Ford Mercury number 57. Your winner tonight in the Winston 100 for the late model stock cars.